Today I'm showing you the real basic shapes of the body, not the shapes that are bones and boxes and beans and robo-beans and all the other things they tell you that don't actually look anything like the final figure, but the ones I would actually use that help me get good proportions and angles and poses from the beginning where it looks like the final figure anyway. And let's start off with the problem with most of the main figures, or the main methods they teach when drawing the basic shapes of the body. So if I have a figure like this, and we go with a method like drawing the rib cage, right? And the rib cage looks kind of like an egg. And what you'll notice about an egg, and this is a poor egg, but whatever, you get the idea. It's supposed to be narrow at the top and thick at the bottom. Like, it's obviously going to get narrower here than it is here. But overall, this area is thinner than this area. And the thing is that that's not what you actually see. I see on this guy how thin it is around his waist, but how thick it is on his chest and back area, right? You can see clearly that this, from here to here, is much thicker than from here to here. But for this area of the body, they want you to draw an egg that's thin up at the top and thick down there. And so if this is what our actual ribcage looks like, then why don't we see that on the actual figure? Well, the reason why is because there's muscle on top of it, right? Because I can see he's got his pecs right here, making it bigger. He's got his like teres major and lats up there. He's got his traps up here. And all these muscles are making it bigger, right? So if this, like this figure, is roughly what I want my final drawing to look like, then why would I draw something that I don't want it to look like at all, right? Because if we're doing a basic shape, and we can simplify this, then why don't we just do that instead of trying to figure out, I wonder what's underneath there, right? Because imagine if like doctors never existed and nobody was ever torn open and we didn't study anatomy or whatever, and you were just an artist and you didn't know anything about bones and whatever. You wouldn't really know well what a rib cage looks like. So that just shows how irrelevant it is to think about an actual rib cage. And we can do this for really anything. I could talk about how some people want to make it into like a box, but then like a box doesn't accurately represent it either. And we could also talk about a bean and how that's wrong. And one thing I do want to mention about like the bean or just drawing a rib cage or whatever is how you don't know what corresponds to what. So let me explain what I mean. Let's say I go over here and I do the bean method as some people recommend, right? And I know that's not as good of a bean as it could be, but whatever, right? Let's say this is the bean, okay? And I assume that's the front of the body here and this is the back of the body here. If this is what I drew, where do I put the pecs? Where do I put the obliques? Like, it's kind of weird. Like, is this where I put the pecs? Is this where I put it? Is this where I put it? I don't know, right? It's just such a like a vague shape. There's no points on it. It's so smooth. But if instead I had a shape that had like points on it, I'd be like, okay, this point here correlates to the pecs or the waist or something, right? So that's another problem with these shapes. So here's what I recommend. And I'll show you the exact shapes I use, but you don't even have to use the exact shapes I use, right? Because the main point of basic shapes, right, you should know this already, is to get proportion, pose, and angles correct from the beginning, right? So and you do that by simplifying, okay? So if our job is to simplify this, there's a million ways to do that. So I'll show you mine, and you can get ideas from it, edit it, and make your own method. So let's just take this figure and go like from top to bottom, the shape I would use or maybe use, and then you'll know how to simplify figures from reference. Then when you know how to do it from reference, you'll be able to use the same shapes when you're drawing from imagination. And when you're drawing those shapes from imagination, then you're doing a good job, right? So for the head, I'm a fan of the Loomis method. And you know why? It accurately represents the head, right? Because if I actually draw a Loomis on top of this, it will match up, right? If I draw the ball, and I draw the front, and I draw the jaw, it looks just like a Loomis head, right? And if I like cut off the side plane like it recommends, it's like, yeah, I can see how there's a plane changing right here and here. And then I can put on the cheekbones right here, just as Loomis recommends, and how the ear goes there. It perfectly matches up, right? And I can divide the face into thirds. I love the Loomis method because it accurately represents it. Thing is, if I draw a rib cage or a bean, that doesn't accurately represent the body. So then what does? Well, here's what I do. First, let's get the neck out of the way. I agree with what most people do there too. They draw basically a tube. Wow. All right. Now, here's where it gets a little bit different. The rib cage, the top of it is like what, right here? But look, we've got traps on top of that, right? We've got traps. So what shapes do the traps make? So if I draw from the back view, the head. So here's the Loomis, like there's the sides chopped off. Here's the neck, right? The ears will be here and here. The neck is here, like this. But then the way the traps connect is they kind of come to a point, like a triangle coming out here and here, okay? So on this figure, I need to imagine where the middle of his back or neck or traps, whatever you want to say is. And I would say that's right here. And then from there, I'm basically making a triangle for this. And it goes all the way down to the collarbone. See? Then from there, you would just continue those lines down to the waist like this. And at the belly button, I draw these diagonal angles to draw basically the waist. And this shape is the one I use when drawing from imagination. So if I draw it from a straight on shot, so it's really clear and easy to understand, you have the triangle for the collarbone and traps. And then it gets maybe a little bit wider because of the back muscles or whatever. Then it gets narrower, and it comes to a point at the belly button like this, right? And then if you turn that in space, this point will like move one way. So if we rotate this torso so that it's facing its own right, then the point will move to the right a little bit too, right? And the collarbone will move a little bit forward. So it's kind of be like that. It's a little bit of an exaggeration, but you get the idea. Then the back might curve out more than the front does as well. So it might be a little bit more like this if it's turned. And then if we go for a full profile view, then it would be kind of like that, right? So let's keep going on this guy. Then you would just draw a center line because center lines are always helpful for keeping things symmetrical. And now we move to the midsection. And for the midsection, draw a tube. Just a really flattened tube or cylinder or bowl, whatever you want to call it, right? And there's one thing I want to show you that's just really stupid. And this really just shows how dumb people who teach art on the internet can be. It's this shape here. I bought an art course once, and this is what they taught in the art course. And when you see this, it's just stupid, because how does this ball help you draw the body? Because if we were making a final figure, like this was our base, and then we were drawing on top of it, we would completely disregard the ball. And then what's dumb about this shape here for the pelvis is it's weird trying to figure out how the legs would even connect to that. It doesn't really make sense. It's like, do I put the rectus femoris right up here or down here or what? And then with this shape here, it's like, okay, we understand that it's thick at the top as well. So it's like taking a traditional ribcage shape, adding some depth to it. See, we see the side plane, that's kind of nice, right? But then it fails to completely add the traps. It's like, there's not even a mass at the top for the traps, which are such an important shape for the final body, right? So we go back to this guy, and let's keep going. How do we do the pelvis then? Well, the pelvis, there are a few ways to do it. One way that's pretty common is to draw like an underwear shape, not the kind of underwear he's wearing, because it's a little bit longer, but the kind that's like a whitey-tighty, I guess. And it would be like this. And I feel like this shape is kind of hard to figure out because it will change so much depending on the angle and pose. As you can see, this one's kind of weird with all the different sides and curves and things. So that's one option, and you can just learn what it would look like in every position. But the one I'm liking even more lately is where I draw basically a bowl shape up here, just like the one for the midsection. And then draw some kind of shape. I change it a lot. Like sometimes I'll use a triangle, sometimes a trapezoid, sometimes whatever this is, kind of like a ball with the sides cut off, just for the crotch. And then I realize how the legs will just move up and down upon them, right? Because if I go over here again, and we're talking about a profile view, so here's the pelvis, the front is here, the back is here. On top of this, you would put like a shape for the butt and a shape for the crotch. The way the leg works is it will just move freely in this plane. So if the leg is straight down, then it just goes like this, right? Simple. But if you're raising the leg, this line here basically moves. So instead of it being there, you would move that line so that it's here, and you can draw the leg up there. And really, you don't even need like a butt shape. What you can do is just have that bowl shape I described, and you can just move a leg shape around it, like this. And then the butt is just implied to fill in that space. Or if the leg is down, then you put it there, and then the butt would fill in this space, right? And then you can even move it like backward, right? Kind of like this. And now look, such a tiny space. So it's implied, but you need to add some mass because it's getting all squished, and then you get that gluteal fold, I guess you call it, something like that. So we go back to this guy. We can see that on this bowl shape for this leg, its point where it's coming out is all the way here at the top. But on this leg, the point where it like is coming out of the body is sort of like right here. And so then from here, what you do is you draw the round shapes for the top of the legs, right? And what you do is you're going to draw a straight line to the point, kind of like this and this. And you might be thinking, oh, but Maverick, didn't you say you wanted to accurately represent the final figure? Well, I do, but it's really hard to get the angles of body parts correct when they're curved. So this leg, I mean, I might have gone ahead and just drawn in the curves from the beginning because it's not that curvy of a leg. But sometimes you'll have a leg and it's like really muscular and it's from the correct angle where you can really see a bulge, right? Like you can have a leg that looks like that. And you can see just the mass of the quad right there. So if I was trying to draw in this leg, then from the beginning, I probably would have just taken a point here, and then I would have drawn across it with a straight line and then added the quad on top. Because if I was trying to draw the curve from the beginning, it's hard to get angles when you're drawing a curve, right? Because angles are all about straight lines and stuff like this, right? But if I had to draw the same angle but with like curved lines, it would be like kind of difficult for me to do and get accurate. So I draw the straight first, and then add the curves on top is how I usually would approach it. And then I see people all the time, I never got this. They want to draw balls everywhere for everything. They want to draw for a ball for the knees, the ankles, the elbows, and the shoulder, and the wrist. They just want to draw balls everywhere, and I don't get it because I don't see balls everywhere. Maybe it's just because I'm not gay. But anyway, the knee, it's like a tube too. I mean, I see things as tubes mostly. And I just draw the shape. Because it doesn't make sense to combine this shape with the lower leg or the thigh, because it's just so big and large. If I drew like just a big gap between the upper leg and the lower leg, it wouldn't quite work. It would just look weird, and getting the spacing right would be weird as well. And then for the lower leg, I do the same thing. I want to draw a straight line first for each thing, and then I can add the curves for the calves on top. And this is really nice because down here on the calf or the lower leg, it's really flat and without much muscle. And so it's much easier to find this point where it connects when I already have something to draw the point on, right? And then from here, sometimes, depending on how detailed I want to be, I might even draw this like a wrench wrapping around the foot, right? Because this foot, it makes these curves. Then for the feet, I usually go with like a wedge shape, and if they're wearing shoes, I'll make sure to like thicken the wedge at the bottom like that. But he's not wearing shoes, so it's gonna be pretty flat. Now we'll do the other leg really quick. Straight line, add the muscle on top, straight line here, add some muscle. Then we've got to the knee being just like a block like that, Then we've got straight line, add a little bit of muscle. Then we've got this wrapping around the foot. We've got the wedge shape coming out like this. And we've got the heel shape this time because the heel is visible. And I just make that like some sort of trapezoid that connects to the wedge. Now we're on to the arms. Now everybody will tell you to draw the shoulders like a ball. But I mean, they're not usually a ball. I mean, for example, if I just like perfectly trace this one right now, it makes like a football shape. And that makes complete sense. Because if we think about how the deltoid, this muscle here, actually works, what happens is we have a rib cage, kind of like this, right? Well, actually, let's draw an actual rib cage. Like, let's show you the underlying anatomy so you can understand this. If we have an actual rib cage, so here's like the collarbone, here's the other collarbone, here's the sternum, and here's like the top of the rib cage, and it's doing like this. Back here, we'll have the scapulas, right? And between like this collarbone and the scapula, you'll have the humerus, right? Which is the upper arm bone. So it'll be kind of like a ball at the top. Let's actually change colors for this. It'll be kind of like a ball at the top, and then you'll have to go down pretty straight, and then like a ball at the bottom, and that's like the upper arm bone, right? The way the deltoid works is it connects all around this, okay? On the collarbone and the top of the scapula. And then it goes to this point, and it just connects to it like this. And so you can see that it's gonna be around over here, because that's where like the main belly of the muscle is, right? But over here, it's just trying to connect. And it's just gonna connect kind of thin like back there too. And so there's no ball here. It's coming to a complete point, right? So you wanna keep that in mind the entire time when you're drawing deltoid. So I just find the point and find where it connects and kind of connect it with a curve. And so I'll do the same thing over here. Here's the point, and it's connecting like this. And sometimes the chest gets in the way a little bit. So I mean, I'll have to draw this curve here and then this, and then draw the curve like that there. And now I've got two actual deltoids that's gonna help me in my final drawing. But if instead I was just like, I'm drawing the shoulders now, and that guy on YouTube told me to draw a ball, and then I just draw a ball here, it's not gonna work out right, because then you think the bicep's gonna have to come out of here. Because if this is the shoulder, I mean, it wouldn't make sense for the bicep to come out of up here on the ball. That doesn't make sense. So that's why you don't want to draw the ball, because it confuses things, because it doesn't accurately represent the body. And then the upper arm, I agree with everyone who says it's a tube. I mean, I draw the line here, make it a cylinder. Oh wow, see, pretty simple. So you can see that I'm agreeing with tons of the advice they give, because it is kind of common sense for a lot of it. The upper arm's a tube, right? And the Loomis head accurately represents the actual head. But when they try to draw beans and cubes and everything for the rib cage, it doesn't make sense. And then the next thing is to draw the forearm. Now there are a few ways you can do the forearm, and that's kind of the cool thing. All we're doing is simplifying it, and you can simplify something complicated in many ways. So one thing you can do is you can draw kind of like a ovular mass like this for the upper forearm, because it's more muscular up there, and then draw a more boxy kind of thin thing for the wrist area, right? And I think that's what I'd like to do for this drawing. But you could have also, just like the upper arm, drawn a simple tube all the way through and then added the muscle on top. Or you could have, I mean, those are the two methods I'd use, but you might even be able to come up with something else. Now for the hand, it changes in every pose. Because right now, we see that there's a plane change here, from this to this, and then we have a thumb coming out. But if I just showed you a picture of like that, you wouldn't necessarily think of it as a hand, right? Because normally we think of a hand in a neutral or just like plain open pose that's straight on, or you have like a pentagon with a wedge shape, and then the thumb, and then the fingers like this. If you saw this, you'd probably think of a hand, right? But it changes so much from view to view, because the same pentagon shape from a different view, if I have it straight on like this, it's going to be like a curved block like that. And then out of this, you have fingers coming down like this, plus a wedge shape for the thumb, plus the actual thumb. And it just changes from position to position. And so you really want to think about the 3D shapes of it, right? You really just need to practice drawing hands a lot and think about the different 3D shapes they make. Now we'll do the other arm. Once again, tube, and then muscle shape plus straight shape. And I know lots of people even like to draw kind of like a circle there, but not the way I was complaining about earlier. Earlier, I'm talking about like actual circles. They just draw circles everywhere, right? Because if I was drawing this same circle shape here, but from like this view where you're viewing it like this, then it would be more like this. Watch. So here's the hand, here's the thumb. This circle shape would actually be more like this, kind of just on top, right? And the reason this helps some artists is it helps them get that dip on the hand, right? Because if you look at my forearm like this, you can see how it's going straight here and then kind of like dips down for the hand, right? And drawing this circle on top, kind of like a wristwatch, helps them remember that dip. And just depending on the pose, I'll draw that. And sometimes I just think it looks cool, like right here, to draw a shape there, so I'm doing that. And so here you can't even see the thumb, which really shows how the hands change so much. And plus you only see like 2 fingers as well. And then if I hide the underlying layer like this is the final thing you see. And you can tell how this looks like just some real human basic shapes, right? Everybody can tell, oh, this is a human. But you start drawing like bean shapes, and you start drawing just balls everywhere, like a ball for the hip, a ball for the knee. Yeah, you might be able to tell it represents a figure, because how could you not, right? But when you're trying to draw stuff on top of it, like all the muscles, it's gonna be really, really hard. But watch this, like if I go to a blue color, like this, I know exactly where to put muscles on this, right? Like I know that the pecs are gonna be right here, connecting just like let's see how close and accurate I get anyway. I'm thinking that the chest is gonna be around there like that. And then you're going to have the abs about that wide, taking up that much space. And then I think you're going to have the serratus bordering the obliques about there. And then I think that the front delt is going to change from the side delt about there. I mean, this is so easy for me, right? And then we can draw how the bicep's going to be there, and then maybe, let's see, what else will we draw? The sternocleidomastoid is going to be right there. We know that's going to be there. And then I know that the rectus femoris is going to be connecting up here like this. And then that the, what do you call it? The sartorius is going to be crossing over that about here, making the vastus medialis here and the vastus lateralis there. And so you can see how I just threw on a bunch of anatomy. Let's just see how close I got on top of this. Oh wow, basically perfect, right? I can see that the front delt is actually crossing over maybe just a little bit higher than I had in this one. And it looks like I got the sternocleidomastoid perfectly placed. I got the bottom of the chest maybe just a little bit too high. I put this part here too low a little bit, so I'd have to change that. Let's see. Oh look, this line I drew for the serratus and the obliques bordering in the perfect place. You can see the serratus muscles coming out of there, like exactly at where I drew the line. You can't really see his abs, but I'm going to assume that I placed them correctly. Let's see. Oh look, if I go into a red color, I can see his rectus femoris going just like, I think I got that exactly right. I think I did that right. And then let's see, let's erase and see if I got this point where the inner leg touches the vastus medialis. Did I get that point right? Oh, I got it exactly right. Like, see, that's how awesome my base figure was, where I can just draw these lines on top so easily because there's points on them. It has points. You need points. So if you even look at the thumbnail I drew for this video, I'm doing the same thing, right? But also notice how I'm not strictly following shapes, right? Like, I did use the Loomis method here. I drew a ball for the top of the head, and I made sure to kind of make the side look flat, and I drew a line for the brow, and I added the jaw. But I didn't strictly follow it. I mean, you don't see the perfect circle with the sides perfectly chopped off. And you can see how I was keeping in mind the mass of the traps and how the back is round, but I wasn't following everything exactly, like, to the T. So kind of you want to be loose a lot of the time too, like, because lots of times when I'm drawing the basic shapes, I will be just like loose, sketching stuff in like this, all crazy like, and I'm able to draw like cool stuff like this. And the reason this is good is because when you quickly get stuff down, it's easy to fix stuff than completely creating something on your own, right? Like if you had a broken car, that's easier to make work than having to build a car from complete scratch, right? So if I'm being all sketchy like this, I can just catch my own proportion mistakes. Because people who like suck at art can still say, oh yeah, you drew the arms too long, bro. When critiquing someone's art, right? They can still see that something's messed up, but then they still suck at drawing, right? And so if I just quickly drew this as a base sketch for a body, I would be able to fix it better than drawing from scratch where I'm trying to be all pristine and clean and all that. So with this, I might say that he's leaning too far back. It doesn't look like he can stand. So now I have something to fix. I can grab my lasso tool and I can just rotate him a little bit to be more upright. And see, now I fixed something, which was much easier than trying to get all the angles right from the beginning. And then I might be looking at his chest and think, okay, maybe that's a little bit too long, or at least I need to draw the parts that are higher up. So then I'd be drawing this here, showing that it gets higher there and that it raises up here. Just define that a little bit more clearly to make you not think the chest is too long. And then I might think, oh, the head is too tall. I need to cut off some of the top like that. And I need to lower the belly button because I keep this point at the bottom of the shape for the belly button, but the belly button should be a little bit lower. So you draw that there and add that up. See, so it's good to be sketchy sometimes like this, but also sometimes you just do need to be methodical, like, okay, look at the reference, look at the angle in there, and then try to copy that angle onto your own drawing, right? Because if in the reference you see someone's arm, like there's the deltoid, and there's the traps and the pecs, and there's like the side, and then you'll have the serratus here, and then they've got the triceps over here and their biceps here. If you see this in a reference, what's nice to do is to kind of hover your pen over it like this. Just go back and forth, like really ingrain this angle in your mind. Then go over to your page, like if this is your page, and this is the reference over here, just hover over it there, and then place the same angle there, right? And so now let's just draw these the basic shapes in a few different more angles, right? So here we have Nightwing. Let's just try to draw his basic shapes, right? This is one I drew. So I might try to draw like a Loomis thing. I want to use a more boxy shape this time. And then draw that jaw, get his neck in there like this, and then add those juicy traps. And then I see that his belly button is about directly underneath, just beside the middle of his face, so kind of like right there. Let's make sure we count 3 heads to find the belly button. 1, 2, 3. So there's the belly button. Then we'll go up a diagonal to find those points where it changes from like rib cage, muscly area to the thin waist. And it'll be like this. And then we'll find the front, make sure it's this. Midsection, bowl, crotch, leg raising up here, leg coming down here. And then you've got the deltoid, another deltoid. And notice how, yeah, I kind of drew a ball here, but this is like the sketchy shape. I'm just trying to get the main masses in quickly. None of this is like strict, we're just simplifying. And then you'll notice that when you do this with reference and you draw these massy shapes that accurately represent it, you'll just naturally draw the same ones when you're drawing on your own. So then we've got the upper arm like this, and then the forearm crossing over on top of it. See, that's a key point, because many people have trouble drawing bent arms, especially when like one is in front of the other. You just draw the same shape and be okay to overlap it, right? And then I'm going to draw the muscly shape of this, but then the skinny shape is going to overlap the muscly shape like this. And then we'll have the fist on top like that. And then we draw this arm. And look, I'm just going to hover my pencil over this entire angle for the whole arm, and then try to copy it here. And then I'm going to notice, I'm going to draw a horizontal line, that the wrist is basically right under the belly button. So the wrist should go here, and I can draw the other side of this arm, and draw his hands coming out of it, noticing this angle here. And that's really all you got to do. I mean, I didn't worry about drawing the pecs in the basic shapes, but maybe the pecs are an important enough landmark to you, where you think that you have to draw the pecs into it, because you might count chests instead. Because many people, when they're measuring, they'll count heads. They'll be like 1, 2, 3, like that. You might get to the chest and then just start counting chests or something, because maybe that helps you draw. So when I've been drawing like this, I've basically come up with my own proportional measurements. Because many people, as you've probably seen in like YouTube shorts and stuff like that, they'll tell you these measurements like the body is 8 heads tall, or the head is 5 eyes wide. You'll have an eye in the middle and an eye on the edge and an eye on the other edge, and stuff like that. But I've created my own just by doing this, that I use every time, that I've never ever heard anyone say online. So for example, I will say that from the top of the ball of the nose, let's get a to the bottom of the chin, like this distance here, is the same distance as from the bottom of the chin to the top of the collarbone. Now here, it might be a little bit different, because it varies. I'm making this guy's chin real big, but whatever, right? Close enough. It's a helpful measurement for me. And then another measurement I'll use is that the belly button is 3 heads down. So I'll go 1 head, so from here to here, and then from here to here, and then from here to here. And then the nipple is 2 heads. So here's 1 head, 2 heads, and you have the nipple. And then 3 head, and you have the belly button. And another measurement I'll use is that the heel to the rectus femoris, when copied up, should get you around the traps. And here, his leg is pretty long. And so maybe it's a little bit off, but it's a helpful base measurement. So here's the big takeaway. You want to draw shapes that accurately represent the body so that you can easily add anatomy on top and have landmarks to do that. And you want to make sure you're getting the angles correct at the beginning. And when you draw other shapes, it's hard to get the angles right because they don't even represent the final thing. And if you want more help in drawing, where I personally coach you, you can look at the link in the description. And if you want more videos like this in the same style, comment what you want next. Goodbye.